in Battle of Badr, a lot of the ultimate leaders of Quraysh, they passed away. They were killed on the spot. So Abu Jahl, for instance, he was killed. Like the leader of essentially the Fir'aun of the non-Muslims, he was killed. Now, does anybody know who he was killed by? I'm not asking for names. Does anybody know like the...
Two teenagers?
Yes. Well done. Well done. It was actually two young, I don't know teenagers, but young adults. They were young adults, like I think probably our age. Allahu Alam if they're teenagers, we can't really tell. But they were young adults who killed Abu Jahl. And a lot of scholars in their talks about youth and the promotion of youth, they mention these as one of the famous stories that it took a youthful person to kill the Fir'aun of Islam. It took a youthful person to kill the Fir'aun of Islam. Showing you the importance of how young people need to play an integrated part for the sake of Islam in whatever society they're in. Whatever society they're in. In Surah Al-Kahf, that's another one. You know the people of the cave? The people of the cave. You know the word used for the people of the cave? What is it? Sheikh Fagiri. People of the cave. What is the word? Fityatan. Mumtaz. Very good, Sheikh. President got it. Oh, sorry, Sheikh. Sorry. So the word used in Surah Kahf is fityatan, which means young adults. Also young adults. It's not people, not old people who left their city for the sake of Allah. It was young people. So you guys, mashallah, are young people. What's it called? Young, I think in Islamic terms, the young age, anything below 33? Or 40? So there are like variations of opinions. Some scholars say it's 33, some people say before 40. So you've got like, I don't know, 20 years ahead of you in your youthful age. So use it wisely, inshallah, for the sake of Islam. Another very important lesson, right? Now, what I want to specifically focus on is the after battle. What happened after the battle? That's one thing that's very, very important. So three things that we wanted to discuss about, and that's one of the things is the kindness shown to the slaves. Actually, before we get to that, does anybody know how many slaves were captured? Put your hands up. How many slaves were captured in Battle of Badr? Not you, Shah. I know you know the answer by heart. Anyone? How many slaves were captured in Battle of Badr? Just 70. Well done. Well done. Okay, so 70 people were captured in the Battle of Badr. So the Muslims won, and back in those days you had like prisoners of war which you can have as slaves. So you also have to understand that in those days slaves existed. Slaves existed, right? Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded all his companions to show kindness towards these slaves. To show kindness. And we have several narrations. I'm going to narrate one to you. One of the narrations was by a companion, not a companion, just I think a non-Muslim. His name is Abu Aziz, and it's mentioned in that book as well. And Abu Aziz mentions that while he was enslaved by Muslims, he said he was so shocked by the kindness of those people, of the Muslim people, because of this command of the Prophet ﷺ to be kind to the slaves. What they did was, their main food was either bread or dates, right? And bread was more fulfilling. It has a lot of carbohydrates. The dates are not much which you can eat with. They would give me the bread and they would eat the dates themselves. I.e., they would give me the better food. It's like saying they would give me Burger King while they'd have chips. That's the equivalent. SubhanAllah. They would treat their own capturers as if they were better than them. And out of shame, he continues the tradition, out of shame, I couldn't see it, so I gave them the bread back. Right? And SubhanAllah, there's a very important lady of our time who was actually captured in Afghanistan. Anybody know her name? A modern contemporary speaker who was actually captured by Muslim Talibanis in Afghanistan. Huh? Not Malala. Malala, man. Yvonne Ridley. Have you guys heard of Yvonne Ridley? You guys heard of her? Okay, so she's a female speaker. She's a female speaker today. She was a journalist, and she went to Afghanistan to try and record Taliban and all these Al-Qaeda, all this sort of stuff, right? And this lady, she was captured by the Muslims, the Taliban. And so she thought, khalas, Yawm al-Qiyamah is starting for me, I'm going to die, blah, 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 blah. These Muslims are going to kill me, rape me, whatever. And it turned out she was so surprised, like they didn't harm her, they fed her so well, they gave her a good place to stay, etc. Exactly the same treatment as these people. The same treatment as these people. I'm not supporting Taliban, by the way. I'm just saying that, look, this treatment had an effect. Okay, so don't take me out of context, please. I'm supporting that. Not the case at all, right? So these people, they treated the same way as we see in the tradition of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. And they even told her, look, we'll free you. And she's surprised. Why would you free me? All we are asking from you is you just read the Quran once. That's all they told her. Just read the Quran once. So she fled, literally, like she went like sonic speed back to UK, right? She's like, I think is she from UK, Yvonne, or Scotland? Whatever. She's from UK, right? Okay, smart guy. But UK, I mean Britain, but okay. So
That's still Scotland.
England.
whatever, man. Okay, I give up. So what are the case? She comes back, right? And she's like shocked, like she can't believe that she was in a Taliban camp, first of all. I mean, for us, even that's scary to be in a Taliban camp, right? She was a prisoner, and now she's free. And she was just wondering, like, it just struck her mind, like, how could such a people just leave me? There must be something in this book which they firmly believe in, right? So she read the book, and after researching the book, she took the Shahada. And now she is one of the most leading prolific speakers across the world. And she's supporting information which we usually don't get from Palestine. She's giving us updates about Palestine. She's supporting Muslims worldwide across. All why? Because one or two people from the Talibani group showed her kindness. SubhanAllah. And that's deep. That's proper deep. Right? So that's one of the things that you learn from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And by the way, compare what I'm telling you now with all the other wars that have happened. Who has shown the same level of kindness to such people? Who has shown the same level of prestige to such people? No one would do that. The Prophet ﷺ, even he had the what's it called, prisons of war. He put them in their house, in his house. One of them was living is in his house. Can you imagine someone like, I don't know, like President Bush going to war, and then he has a prisoner of war and he puts him in the White House next to him? Impossible. Impossible. And yet the Prophet ﷺ, he did this. He was a real down-to-earth human being. Right? Now, next thing that I wanted to mention, right? And this is a case of, again, a relationship with non-Muslims. And this is the case of Mut'im ibn Adi. Right? Mut'im ibn Adi. Remember that name. Now, I mentioned to you guys that there were 70 people that were captured by the Muslims. Now, there's a narration of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ where he said that if Mut'im ibn Adi was alive, if he was alive, I would free all these 70 people like that. Now, to understand the context of this tradition, we need to go back a few steps. And then you'll realize the virtue of this man. So, Mut'im ibn Adi, he was a non-Muslim, and specifically he was a mushrik, i.e. he worshipped stones. And what is the worst thing that you can do in the sight of Allah? What is the worst thing you can do? Shirk. Associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Clear cut. Now, so the Prophet ﷺ, right, he was exiled. Remember, he was exiled for 3 years where they didn't have any food. Mecca completely left them. They couldn't marry with Meccan people, etc. There were some group of people within Mecca who wanted to abolish that and let the Muslims back in. He was one of the people who initiated that. Mut'im ibn Adi was one of those people. Another thing that Mut'im ibn Adi, what he did was, you know what was the worst day which the Prophet ﷺ faced? What was the worst day he faced? In his entire life, what is the worst day that he faced? Does anybody know? Ta'if. Well done. Well done. So Ta'if, the day of Ta'if, you know what happened in Ta'if? When he went to the city of Ta'if, he tried to give da'wah. Right? And when he was giving da'wah, they stoned him, they pelted him, young, old, slaves, everyone. And narrations say that he was bloodied so much that there was so much blood that his shoes were stuck to his feet because of the blood that was dripping from him. So he was really like smashed up, proper smashed. And you have to understand that the relationship between Ta'if and Mecca, they were like rival cities. They were like rival cities. It's like Liverpool and Manchester, rival cities, okay? And when the Meccan people found out when the Mecca people found out the Prophet ﷺ went to Ta'if for support, it's like he committed treason. It's like he committed treason. Now, the only way he could get into Mecca, was through the protection of one of the people of Mecca. So back in those days, people needed to give you protection if you wanted to get into Mecca. It's like your visa. You know how you have a visa to get into a country? Something like that. Now, he asked a few people. He couldn't go into Mecca. He was asking people from the borders of Mecca. Can you send this person and ask him if he can give me protection? No. Second person? No. Third person? No. Right? Until finally, the Prophet ﷺ asked Mut'im ibn Adi. Mut'im ibn Adi. And Mut'im ibn Adi, he said yes. And look what he did. Him and his sons put up their armor, went up towards the borders of Mecca, right? Took the Prophet ﷺ, went back towards Mecca, and went in front of the Kaaba. When you wanted to make a public announcement, this was one of the ways to do it. You go in front of the Kaaba, right? And he announced, I, Mut'im ibn Adi, and my family have given Prophet Muhammad protection. I have given this man protection, and no one can harm him while I'm here. No one can harm him. Now, and bear in mind, this is a mushrik, a polytheist, right? And he died as a polytheist. He died as a mushrik. And now you see the value, because Mut'im ibn Adi showed so much kindness towards Muslims, and showed so much support for Muslims. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he never forgot that. He never forgot that. He acknowledged that in his heart. He still acknowledged it. And so when Battle of Badr came, and when the slaves came, he made that comment, if Mut'im ibn Adi was alive, I would have freed them like that. I would have freed them. And you have to understand the value of, because they decided to sell the slaves. They decided to sell the slaves. So people who were related to these slaves, they could buy them back for a price. Back in those days, it was about 4,000 dirham, which is like, I don't know, $150,000. It's about $150,000 per slave. Multiply that by 70 on average, you get approximately about $1 million or $2 million. That's a big amount. He said, I'll free all this from Mut'im ibn Adi, a non-Muslim. And this is very, very important for us. We should not preach hate towards non-Muslims. That's not how Islam exists. Sorry, yes?
A side point, during the exile, Mut'im ibn Adi was also someone who sent food and other resources to keep the Muslims alive during that 3 years.
So just to add, Mut'im ibn Adi, when the Muslims were exiled from Mecca, he was also one of the few people who sent food towards them in secret. He showed that much of kindness. And that tells us the same thing. And it's just a common fact, we have to be courteous to non-Muslims just like they are to us. Just like they are to us. Very simple fact. Unfortunately, this is a big problem. It's a very big problem in traditional Muslims. Yeah.
Yeah, at the start of Badr, on the Meccan side, there was someone who was going around saying, how can you go to war? These are your brothers, your fathers that you're fighting. For some reason, I'm under the impression that was Muslim. Can't remember.
No, that was I think Umayyah ibn Khalaf. That was Umayyah. I'm not sure. I think it was Umayyah ibn Khalaf. I literally just studied the Battle of Badr with Shaykh Sakadi. I think it was Umayyah ibn Khalaf or some other guy. Yeah, we'll do this later. But it wasn't Mut'im ibn Adi. So. That's one fundamental lesson that we learn, right? So these are just one of the many stories that we derive out of Battle of Badr. And the reason why I specifically chose these parts, because there's a lot of moral principles that you can learn. I mean, remember, this is war. This is not like a normal thing. This is war. This is when you're at opposition with people. Yet, subhanAllah, within this, the Prophet ﷺ showed so much mercy and showed so much humanity. I mean, that's why I called the lesson for this title was Humanity in War. Humanity in War. I dare you to go and check other war traditions, see if you find any equivalent. I dare you. You won't. You'll not find it. And inshallah, that's the end of this, inshallah, halaqah, inshallah, on the life of the Prophet ﷺ, specifically in the section of Badr. Do you guys have any questions about references, any other details that you think might be helpful, or anything like that? Any questions? Anything, could be about anything. Ruben? Shah, Adi? You guys have questions? Jazakallah khair. Let's end the section. Inshallah, I highly recommend for references, either get that book or Shaykh Yasir Qadi or his YouTube series of Sirah classes should be sufficient. Jazakallah khair, and inshallah I'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Next week it's the treatise of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I think that's delivered either by Fakhruddin, Shaykh Husni, or Zafar, one of the two. So inshallah we'll keep you updated. Jazakallah khair.